They were once sworn enemies, two men from different continents linked by the same whirlwind of tears, drama, and international romance. On one side, Jessie Meester, the intense Amsterdam model whose relationship with Darcey Silva imploded in a firestorm of accusations and thrown shoes. On the other, Tom Brooks, the debonair Brit, whose suave exterior crumbled under the pressure of Darcey's emotional demands, ending in a now infamous question about her weight. They were the opposing poles of the Silvers, rivals who defined two of the most tumultuous chapters in Fiancé history. Now, an electrifying report claims they have formed an unholy alliance. Their shared mission, according to whispers in the digital ether, to destroy the Silver narrative forever. This isn't just gossip. This is the story of a reckoning. If you are ready to pull back the curtain on the biggest conspiracy in history, and I mean really ready to question everything you thought you knew, then do me a favor. Take 1 second and smash that like button, subscribe to the Tell All Tapes, and ring that notification bell. You are not going to want to miss a single update on this because we are just getting started and the rabbit hole goes deeper than you could ever imagine. Welcome back to the Tell All Tapes. Today we are diving headfirst into a story that has been brewing in the shadows. A story that the mainstream day recap channels are too afraid to touch. This is the story of the Jessie and Tom Revenge Pact. It sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? Two former lovers of the same queen, putting aside their own well-domined animosity to unite against a common target. For years, we've accepted the narrative presented to us by TLC and by Darcey Silva herself, that she is a woman who loves too hard, who gives her all, and who is consistently victimized by men who can't handle her big heart. It's a powerful story, a relatable one for many. It's a story that has fueled multiple seasons of Before the Days and launched a multi-season spin-off for the Silva twins. But what if that narrative, the very foundation of the Darcey and Stacey empire, is a meticulously constructed illusion? What if the two men we were taught to villainize were in their own way victims of a lawn-gunning game? This is the explosive premise of a secret project that sources claim is already well underway. And our investigation begins, as so many modern conspiracies do, not in a shadowy parking garage, but in the glaring light of social media. We have to start with the breadcrumbs, the tiny, almost insignificant digital footprints that when pieced together paint a shocking picture. For years, the public interaction between Jessie Meester and Tom Brooks has been non-existent, or at best frosty. They have been careful to maintain their distance, each positioning himself as the superior ex, the one who truly understood Darcey's complexities and ultimately walked away with his dignity intact. They were competitors in the court of public opinion. But then things started to change. It began subtly. So subtly that % of people would have scrolled right past it. On October 10th of last year, Tom Brooks posted a picture on his Instagram. It was a standard Tom post. Him in a tailored suit holding a glass of scotch with a caption about the importance of building your own empire and ignoring the noise. It was a post that could have been made any day of the week. But then something unusual happened. A like appeared on that post from an account that had no business being there. The official verified account of Jessie Meester. Now on its own, a single like means very little. It could be a mishap, a fleeting moment of professional courtesy. But in the world of Fiancé, where every follower, every comment, and every like is scrutinized by millions, it's a signal flare. Jessie Meester doesn't just casually like posts from his reality TV peers, and certainly not from the man who followed him in Darcey's chaotic love life. It was the digital equivalent of a nod across a crowded room, a silent acknowledgement. But it didn't stop there. 2 weeks later, a prominent fan account, one known for its Critical take on Darcey's on-screen behavior, posted a meme. The meme contrasted a clip of Darcey crying over Jessie with a nearly identical clip of her crying over Tom with the caption, "The leading lady is always the same. Only the supporting actors change." In the comment section, a verified Tom Brooks account replied with a single cryptic emoji, the thinking face. Again, plausible deniability. He could simply be reflecting on his past. But then our team of digital investigators found something else. Jesse Meester doesn't follow this particular fan account. Yet, his account history shows that he viewed their Instagram story that very same day. And just hours after Tom's comment, Jesse posted a story of his own, a black screen with white text that read, "Truth has a funny way of revealing itself. You just have to be patient." Are you seeing the pattern? These aren't random occurrences. They are carefully placed markers, a trail being laid for those who are paying attention. This is a digital handshake, a secret pact being solidified in plain sight. They weren't just acknowledging each other's existence. They were co-signing the same sentiment, that they were interchangeable pawns in a game orchestrated by someone else. They were no longer Jesse Darcey's ex and Tom Darcey's other ex. They were becoming a unified front. This was the first phase, the subtle alignment of their public personas against a shared history. The groundwork was being laid for something much, much bigger. The online whispers were just the smoke, but our investigation soon uncovered the location of the fire. The digital breadcrumbs led us to a far more tangible and frankly more shocking piece of evidence. This is where the story moves from online speculation to a real-world sighting that has the potential to blow the lid off the entire Fiancé universe. We received a tip from a source connected to a prominent European reality TV blogger, a commentator based in the Netherlands who has a reputation for breaking stories about the international reality TV scene. Let's call this blogger Eurogossip Unfiltered. According to Eurogossip source, an anonymous but trusted figure within the Amsterdam hospitality industry, something extraordinary took place on the evening of November Road. Jesse Meester and Tom Brooks were spotted together. Let that sink in. Not at a TLC-sanctioned event. Not at a crowded fan convention. They were seen having a quiet, private dinner at a high-end discreet restaurant in the Jordan district of Amsterdam. This wasn't a chance encounter. This was a premeditated meeting. The source, a senior staff member at the restaurant, described the scene in detail. Jesse and Tom were seated in a secluded corner booth away from the main dining area. They were not drinking heavily. They were nursing glasses of sparkling water. They were not laughing or exchanging pleasantries. Their demeanor was described as intensely serious and all business. They had a laptop open on the table between them and were reportedly speaking in low, hushed tones for over 2 hours. The source who recognized them immediately from the show couldn't overhear the entire conversation, but they did catch several key phrases that are absolutely chilling when put into context. The words allegedly overheard included our side of the story, non-disclosure agreements, and they can't edit this. The most explosive phrase, however, was repeated by both men multiple times. The Queen's Gambit. The source alleges that Jesse and Tom were not just reminiscing about their shared ex-girlfriend. They were planning. They were strategizing. The laptop on the table, the serious tone, the specific calculated language, it all points to one conclusion. This was a business meeting. This was the first official summit of the Anti-Darcey Alliance. The location itself is a major clue. Amsterdam. This is Jesse's home turf. For Tom to fly from the UK to Amsterdam for this meeting signifies that Jesse is likely the one driving this project using his home field advantage. It suggests a level of coordination and investment that goes far beyond a simple chat between two guys with a common complaint. They weren't just there to vent. They were there to build a weapon. And the name they kept repeating, the Queen's Gambit, gives us our first major insight into what that weapon is. So, what is the Queen's Gambit? Our investigation, based on connecting the dots from the Amsterdam sighting and further inside whispers, suggests that this is the working title for their secret project, a feature-length tell-all documentary. This isn't going to be a YouTube rant or a series of bitter Instagram posts. We're talking about a professionally produced, high-stakes, exposed designed to completely reframe the public's perception of Darcey Silva. The title itself is a stroke of genius and very much in line with how both Jesse and Tom see themselves. The Queen's Gambit is a chess opening. It's a move where a player sacrifices a pawn to gain control of the center of the board. In this analogy, Darcey is the undisputed queen of the day fiancé chessboard. She is the most powerful, most recognizable piece. Jesse and Tom see themselves as the pawns she has sacrificed along the way to secure her position. This documentary is their gambit, a calculated, risky, and aggressive move designed to checkmate the queen and take control of the entire game. The alleged content of this documentary is where the story truly becomes explosive. This project is not just about their feelings or their perspectives. The plan, as we understand it, is to present what they're calling irrefutable evidence of a long-term pattern of behavior. The documentary structure is said to be a side-by-side comparison of their relationships with Darcey, meticulously cross-referenced to highlight identical patterns of conflict, emotional escalation, and as they claim, manipulation. Imagine this. The film opens with Jesse and Darcey's infamous fight in New York City. The shouting, the accusations, the storming off. Then it immediately cuts to Tom and Darcey's fight at the restaurant in Albania. The same rising tension, the same circular arguments, the same tearful conclusion. The film will allegedly use this technique over and over, creating a powerful, almost hypnotic argument that these were not isolated incidents of a relationship failing, but a repeatable formula for creating reality television drama. But the core of their argument will rest on the evidence they claim to possess. We're talking about the Holy Grail for day investigators, unseen footage, and unedited communications. Sources close to the alleged project claim that both Jesse and Tom have been meticulously saving evidence for years, almost as if they knew this day would come. This evidence is said to include two key components. First, unseen text. Messages. We're not talking about a few cherry-picked screenshots. We're talking about entire unedited conversation. Threads that they claim will show a side of Darcey the cameras never capture. Imagine a text from Darcey to Jesse sent hours before a scheduled dinner with cameras that read something like, "Let's make tonight. Don't be afraid to bring up my age. The producers will love it." Or a text to Tom that says, "I feel a big cry coming on. Make sure you're ready to comfort me when we get to the park." If such messages exist and are proven to be authentic, they would be a bombshell. They would transform Darcey from a participant in a reality show to the alleged writer and director of her own melodrama. The second and even more damning piece of evidence is said to be a secret audio recordings by This Is the Nuclear Option. Our sources alleged that at least one of the men and possibly both have audio recordings of phone conversations with Darcey where her on-screen persona completely disappears. These recordings are said to capture conversations where Darcey discusses the show in a purely professional, almost cynical manner. Imagine hearing a recording of Darcey allegedly coaching a friend on what to say to producers to create a more compelling storyline, or a call where she laughs about a fight that just occurred, saying something to the effect of, "I think we got the scene." That should be enough for the episode's climax. The legal and ethical implications of Releasing such recordings are massive, which indicates just how far Jessie and Tom are willing to go. This isn't just about setting the record straight. This is about total annihilation of the established narrative. They are aiming to prove a central thesis that Darcey Silva is not a victim of bad romance, but a master manipulator of her own image, a brilliant performer who creates chaos deliberately for the benefit of her reality show career. To bolster their case, the Queen's Gambit allegedly won't just feature Jessie and Tom. They are reportedly reaching out to a network of other individuals who have been in the Silva orbit. This could include former friends who have had falling outs with Darcey and Stacey, disgruntled former crew members from the show, and potentially even other men Darcey has dated off camera. They are attempting to build a chorus of voices to support their claims to show that their experiences were not unique but part of a consistent and predictable pattern. One name that has been whispered is Stacey's ex-husband Goran Vasic, the father of her two sons. If they could get him on camera, even for a brief statement, it would add a layer of historical credibility that would be difficult to dismiss. They are building a case brick by brick from every corner of Darcey's past, aiming to create a documentary is so packed with evidence and testimony that the audience has no choice but to question everything they have seen on TLC. Now we come to the most crucial question in any investigation. The motive. On the surface, it seems simple. Revenge. Two scorned ex-boyfriends teaming up to trash the woman who broke their hearts and in their view tarnished their reputations. And undoubtedly, there is a deep-seated element of personal vindication at play. Both Jessie and Tom have been branded as villains, as cold and unfeeling men who couldn't handle a strong, emotional woman. They have been the butt of jokes, the subjects of countless memes, their lowest moments replayed for years for the entertainment of millions. The desire to reclaim their own stories, to finally say their piece without the filter of a TLC editor, must be an incredibly powerful motivator. They want to go from being supporting characters in the Darcey show to the protagonists of their own truth. But if you think this is just about clearing their names, you are underestimating the ambition and the cunning of the two men involved. The real motive, the twist in this entire conspiracy is far more audacious and far more dangerous to the reality TV establishment. This isn't just about revenge. It's about revolution. Our sources indicate that the ultimate goal for the Queen's Gambit is not to release it on YouTube or shop it around to tabloid news sites. Their plan is to bypass the entire reality TV ecosystem that they feel betrayed them. They intend to pitch the finished explosive documentary to a rival streaming service. Think about it. A pitch to Netflix, to Max, to Amazon Prime Video. The pitch is irresistible. We are two of the most famous villains from the biggest reality show in the world. We are teaming up to expose the truth behind the show's biggest star with never-before-seen evidence that will shock millions of fans. This isn't a recap. This isn't a reunion. This is an attack. This move transforms the project from a personal vendetta into a brilliant Machiavellian business strategy. By taking their story to a major streaming platform, they accomplish several things at once. First, they lend their project an air of legitimacy and high production value that it wouldn't have otherwise. A Netflix original documentary is treated with a different level of seriousness than a self-published video. Second, they stand to make a significant amount of money, turning their past pain into a massive payday. Both Jessie and Tom are above all else entrepreneurs and influencers. They understand the value of their brands. But the third and most critical objective is that it positions them as direct adversaries to TLC and the entire Fiancé franchise. It's a declaration of war. They are essentially using the fame that TLC gave them as a weapon to attack the network and its golden goose, Darcey Silva. They are betting that the public's fascination With the behind-the-scenes truth of reality TV is so strong that a platform like Netflix would jump at the chance to pull back the curtain on its biggest competitor. This is what makes the plan so diabolically clever. They are not just targeting Darcey. They are targeting the entire machinery that created her. They are exposing the potential artifice of the reality TV genre itself, using one of its most beloved characters as the prime example. The documentary's thesis would implicitly indict the producers and the network. It would ask the audience, were the producers aware of this alleged manipulation? Did they encourage it for the sake of ratings? Did they protect their star at the expense of the men she was dating? These are questions that a network like TLC would never want asked, and that a rival like Max or Netflix would love to be the one asking. Jesse and Tom are attempting to leverage their insider knowledge into a hostile takeover of the narrative, not just for their own relationships, but for the entire show. It's a move that could have seismic repercussions, potentially changing how audiences view not just Darcey, but every single cast member and every single storyline they've ever invested in. The motive isn't just to tell their story. It's to burn down the kingdom and sell tickets to the inferno. And so, we arrive at the precipice of a reckoning. For years, Darcey Silva has masterfully controlled her narrative. She has built an empire on the persona of the lovable, eternally hopeful, yet tragically heartbroken victim. Her tears have been her currency, her romantic failures, the fuel for her ever-growing fame. We have followed her journey. We have rooted for her. We have cried with her. Her story is one of resilience, of getting back up no matter how many times she's knocked down by love. It is the core of her brand, the very essence of what makes her a compelling and profitable reality television star. But now that entire legacy is under threat. Her past is no longer just a collection of memories and dramatic scenes replayed on television. It is allegedly being organized, catalogued, and weaponized by the two people who know her secrets best. This unholy alliance between Jesse and Tom represents an unprecedented threat to the Silva dynasty. It is a coordinated two-front assault on the character she has built. They are coming armed not with opinions but with what they claim is a dossier of proof. The text messages, the audio recordings, the corroborating interviews. If this documentary is real, and if its contents are as explosive as our sources claim, it has the potential to rebrand Darcey Silva in the public eye completely. The narrative could shift almost overnight from Darcey the lovable victim to Darcey the calculated villain. The woman who cries because her heart is too big could be recontextualized as a woman who cries on cue to secure a dramatic scene. The men we saw as gaslighting antagonists could be reframed as the only two people who tried to tell the truth but were silenced and edited into oblivion. This is the true power of the Queen's Gambit. It is an attempt to perform a complete narrative reversal. It's a direct challenge to the millions of fans who have invested their time and emotions in Darcey's story. It forces the audience to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. Have we been duped? Have we been willing participants in a televised illusion, cheering for a character who was in reality the puppet master all along? The very threat of this documentary's existence casts a shadow over every tear Darcey has ever shed on camera. It makes us reevaluate every fight, every declaration of love, every dramatic confrontation. Was it real emotion, or was it a performance for the cameras, a scene being played out to guarantee her spot on the next season? This is the poison that Jesse and Tom are hoping to inject into the fandom. Whether their claims are true or false almost becomes secondary to the doubt they are capable of creating. They are not just trying to win an argument. They are trying to fundamentally change the way we see a reality TV icon. The reckoning is coming, and it threatens to shatter the house that Silva built, leaving us all to Wonder what was real and what was simply good television. The final move in this high-stakes game is about to be played. And the Queen for the first time may be in check. Let's take a breath and process what we've just uncovered. This is not just a rumor. This is a detailed strategic plan for the complete and total dismantling of a reality television icon. The Amsterdam Summit, the working titled The Queen's Gambit. The alleged war chest of unseen texts and secret recordings, and the audacious motive to sell this exposed to a rival streaming giant. This is a conspiracy of unprecedented scale within the day universe. We have moved far beyond the realm of simple gossip and into the territory of a full-blown information war. Now, we must delve deeper into the arsenal that Jessie and Tom are allegedly assembling. What exactly is in these text messages? What could possibly be on those audio recordings that is so damning? And who else might they be bringing into their fold to deliver the final killing blow to the Silva narrative? The answers are more chilling than you can possibly imagine. Let's first dissect the anatomy of the alleged unseen text messages. Sources familiar with the project's development described these not as a handful of damaging messages, but as a complete chronological record of communication that will be presented as a forensic analysis of a calculated strategy. The documentary, we are told, will dedicate an entire segment to this, displaying the text threads on screen for viewers to read themselves, cross-referencing dates and times with the filming schedule of the show. The goal is to create an undeniable side-by-side comparison between the private conversations and the public drama, demonstrating that the latter was often manufactured by the former. Imagine, for instance, the documentary presenting a series of texts from Darcey to Jessie in the days leading up to his first trip to America. We, the audience, saw the romantic anticipation, the nervous excitement. But what if the texts tell a different story? What if they allegedly show Darcey sending Jessie links to past dramatic reality TV scenes with messages like this is the kind of passion the audience loves? We need a big emotional moment at the airport, or don't forget to mention my biological clock. It's a key part of my storyline. This would recontextualize everything we saw. It would change the narrative from a genuine international love story to a prescripted performance with Jessie being given stage directions from his co-star. Now apply the same logic to the Tom Brooks era. Remember the infamous key, the key to his house that he gave Darcey, which she interpreted as a key to his heart, leading to a tearful and confusing confrontation. The show framed it as a classic miscommunication between two people on different pages. But the Queen's Gambit, it is alleged, will present text messages from the night before that scene was filmed, where Darcey allegedly expresses anxiety that their storyline is becoming boring and they need a moment. What if there's a text where she specifically mentions the key, asking Tom to make a grand gesture, knowing full well it would create the ambiguous, high-drama situation that producers crave? If such a text exists, it turns a poignant moment of romantic misunderstanding into a cynical manufactured plot point. The documentary is said to go even further, claiming to have texts that reveal the off-camera reality of their day-to-day interactions. We saw the constant drama, the tears, the arguments. But sources claim the texts from the hours and days when cameras were not present paint a picture of a relationship that was often calm, professional, and even businesslike. Imagine texts discussing their social media engagement numbers, strategizing about how to get more press, or even coordinating their outfits for a scene to create a specific look. There might be texts that are completely devoid of the emotional language she uses on camera, discussing their brand as a couple. The documentary would use these to argue that the high-pitched emotion was a switch that was flipped on only when the cameras were rolling. The juxtaposition would be jarring and for her fans deeply unsettling. It would be An attempt to prove that the Darcey we see is not a person but a character, and the documentary has the script. But text messages, however damning, can be disputed. They can be claimed to be fabricated or taken out of context. This is why the second piece of evidence, the secret audio recordings, is considered the true nuclear option of this project. This is the weapon that Jesse and Tom believe is irrefutable. We are not just talking about muffled, hard-to-understand clips. Our sources allege that there exists several high-quality recordings of phone conversations captured legally in one-party consent jurisdictions that are nothing short of a smoking gun. Let's explore the potential content of these recordings based on the whispers we are hearing. One alleged recording is a phone call between Darcey and Tom reportedly made shortly after their dramatic breakup in New York. On camera, Darcey was devastated, heartbroken, a woman scorned. The recording, however, is said to capture a conversation where she is calm, almost cheerful. The source claims that on this recording, Darcey can be heard laughing about the breakup scene, allegedly saying things like, "Well, that's a wrap on our season, I guess. I think my crying scene was really strong. Don't you? The network is going to eat it up." The conversation then allegedly pivots to a discussion about the upcoming tell-all taping, with Darcey coaching Tom on what to say and what angles to play up to ensure they both get maximum screen time. She might be heard saying, "You need to act a little bit sorry, but don't apologize too much. We need to keep the door open for a possible will they or won't they storyline for the next season. It's good for our brands." If this recording is real, its release would be catastrophic. It would be incontrovertible proof of the central thesis that for Darcey, the show is not a chronicle of her life, but the central focus of her life, a performance to be managed and perfected. Another alleged recording is even more explosive. This one is said to be from Jesse's time with Darcey and involves a conversation she is having with a third party, possibly a friend or even her sister Stacey, while unaware she is on speakerphone with Jesse in the room. In this recording, Darcey is allegedly heard openly discussing the mechanics of reality TV production. She might be heard complaining about a producer who isn't giving her enough dramatic prompts or celebrating a fight she initiated, because she knows it will be the main feature of the episode's promo. The most damning part is said to be when she discusses Jesse himself, referring to him not as her partner, but as her scene partner, and critiquing his performance. In a recent argument, she might allegedly say something like, "He's not giving me enough to work with. I'm carrying all the emotional weight in our scenes. I need him to be more of a villain for this to really work." Think about the sheer devastating power of such a recording. It would be the ultimate peek behind the curtain. A moment that shatters the fourth wall into a million pieces. It would corroborate every suspicion that critics of reality TV have ever had, and it would do so using one of the genre's biggest stars. This is why the audio recordings are the centerpiece of the Queen's Gambit. They are the evidence that cannot be explained away. Jesse and Tom believe these recordings will prove beyond any reasonable doubt that they were not just boyfriends. They were unwitting actors in a drama where only one person knew the ending because she was writing it as they went along. To build their case even further, Jesse and Tom are reportedly not content to rely solely on their own experiences. They know that if it's just their word against Darcey's, many will dismiss them as bitter exes. To overcome this, they are allegedly expanding their investigation to build a wider pattern of behavior, reaching back into Darcey's life before she was a global television phenomenon. They are trying to find what we will call the third man, or even a fourth or fifth. They are reportedly trying to track down men Darcey dated in the years between her divorce from her first husband and her television debut with Jesse. Their goal is to find someone with a similar story. Someone Who can testify on camera to experiencing the same alleged cycle of idealization, manufactured drama, and emotional chaos all before the cameras were ever a factor? Imagine the documentary introducing a new face, a man from Connecticut, perhaps a successful businessman who dated Darcey for a year back in. He comes on camera, his identity potentially obscured to protect him from the inevitable backlash, and he tells a story that is eerily familiar. He talks about how the relationship started with an intense whirlwind romance, how she showered him with affection and made grand declarations of love almost immediately. This is the love bombing phase. Then he describes how small disagreements would inexplicably spiral into massive dramatic confrontations, often in public places, as if she were creating a scene for an invisible audience. He might recount stories of her accusing him of things he never did, creating circular arguments that left him feeling confused and exhausted. This is the manufactured chaos phase. Finally, he might describe how once he started pulling away, she would suddenly become the victim, telling all their mutual friends that he had broken her heart and couldn't handle a strong woman. If they can find this person, and if his story is credible, it becomes a powerful piece of evidence. It would suggest that the behavior we've seen on Fiancé is not a product of the pressure of television, but a pre-existing pattern, and that reality TV simply gave her a global stage on which to perform it. The psychological profile is a cornerstone of this alleged documentary. Jessie and Tom, both of whom pride themselves on their understanding of psychology and personal development, whether you agree with their self-assessment or not, are said to be framing their entire experience through a clinical lens. The Queen's Gambit will reportedly break down Darcey's alleged pattern of behavior using terminology straight out of a psychology textbook. They will present a side-by-side symptom checklist of their relationships. It begins with the idealization phase. Clips of Darcey calling both Jessie and Tom the love of her life within weeks of meeting, planning their weddings, and talking about their soulmate connection. The documentary will present this not as romance, but as the first stage of a predictable cycle. Then comes the devaluation phase. The film will show the constant nitpicking and criticism that slowly chipped away at both men. For Jessie, it was the arguments about cutting a steak the wrong way, about his perceived condescension, about his age. For Tom, it was the accusations that he was hiding something, that he wasn't as affectionate as she wanted, that he was communicating with other women. The documentary will argue that these were not legitimate relationship issues, but rather calculated tests and provocations designed to create a reaction. They will claim that Darcey thrives on emotional turmoil and that when things are calm, she is compelled to create a storm. The film will cut between a clip of her picking a fight with Jessie in a hotel room and a clip of her picking a nearly identical fight with Tom in an Airbnb, highlighting the similar language, the same accusations, and the same inevitable escalation into tears. Finally, they will focus on the discard phase. This is how the relationship ended. With Jessie, it was a fiery public implosion. With Tom, it was a cold, dismissive coffee meeting. The documentary will argue that in both cases, Darcey had already secured her victim narrative before the final discard. She had laid the groundwork with producers and on social media to ensure that when the end came, she would emerge with the audience's sympathy. The ultimate argument of the Queen's Gambit is that Jessie and Tom were not participants in a relationship, but subjects in a recurring experiment. An experiment designed to produce a specific result. Dramatic, compelling reality television that positions Darcey Silva as the tragic heroine season after season. It's a chilling psychological portrait that aims to replace the image of a heartbroken woman with that of a master strategist who plays the game of love like a grandmaster plays chess. This brings us to the wider conspiracy, the element that makes this project so dangerous for the network. Jesse and Tom's documentary is not just an indictment of Darcey. It is a thinly veiled attack on the entire day Fiancé production machine. The narrative they are weaving inevitably raises questions about the role of the producers and the network. TLC. If Darcey was truly manufacturing drama, were the producers aware of it? The documentary will almost certainly imply that they were not just aware, but that they were active, willing participants. The Queen's Gambit will likely feature segments that analyze the show's editing. It might take a single fight scene and break it down shot by shot, arguing that deceptive editing techniques were used to make Jesse or Tom look like the aggressor. They might claim that the producers' questions and confessional interviews were leading and manipulative, designed to coax specific negative responses about Darcey that could then be used against them. The documentary could posit a theory of the Silva machine, an unspoken agreement between Darcey and the network. The theory would be that Darcey delivers the high drama ratings gold content season after season, and in return, the network provides her with a consistently sympathetic edit, protecting their star asset. They're the ones who edit out the moments of alleged calculation and leave in the raw, unfiltered tears. They are the ones who select the scenes that portray the men as cold and unfeeling. This is a high-risk strategy as it accuses the network of journalistic malpractice, but it is essential for Jesse and Tom's narrative. By claiming the deck was stacked against them from the beginning, they absolve themselves of their own on-screen missteps. Jesse's moments of anger and Tom's moments of cadishness are reframed not as character flaws, but as predictable reactions to sustained off-camera psychological pressure and on-camera manipulation from both Darcey and the production team. They will argue that any person would eventually crack under those conditions. The documentary is their attempt to show the audience the full picture, the context they claim was deliberately left on the cutting room floor. This elevates their project from a simple tell-all into an expose of the reality TV genre itself, making it far more appealing to a rival streamer like Netflix or Max who would relish the opportunity to expose the dirty tricks of a competitor. Of course, we must consider the counter-narrative. How would Darcey, Stacey, and their powerful network allies respond to such an attack? Their defense would be swift, brutal, and predictable. The first line of attack would be to discredit the messengers. They would paint Jesse and Tom as bitter, fame-hungry, and irrelevant ex-boyfriends who are teaming up for one last desperate grab at the spotlight. They would frame this documentary as the ultimate act of misogynistic revenge. Two men unable to handle a strong, successful woman now collaborating to tear her down. The Silva twins' powerful social media platform would be weaponized with posts about rising above the hate, living in your truth, and the importance of Silva's strong sisterhood. The second line of attack would be on the evidence itself. Their legal team would immediately challenge the authenticity of any text messages claiming they are doctored or fabricated. As for the audio recordings, they would attack their legality and admissibility while simultaneously claiming the clips are edited and taken completely out of context. Darcey would likely release a tearful, carefully produced statement, perhaps in an exclusive interview with a friendly media outlet. She would claim she was horrified and betrayed, that these men secretly recorded her during her most vulnerable moments. She would turn their weapon back on them, framing the existence of the recordings not as proof of her manipulation, but as proof of their sinister, controlling nature. What kind of man secretly records a woman he claims to love? She would ask. And millions of her fans would rally to her defense. Stacey would play the crucial role of the loyal soldier, the fierce defender of her twin. She would go on the offensive, giving interviews where she details the hell that Jesse and Tom allegedly put her sister through. She would corroborate Darcey's version of events, talk about the late-night phone calls, the tears, the heartbreak. She would be the emotional witness for the prosecution, painting a vivid picture of two manipulative villains. The network. TLC would likely remain silent publicly, but behind the scenes they would be in full damage control mode, likely reinforcing their contractual power over Jesse and Tom, potentially threatening legal action over breaches of their non-disclosure agreements. The battle would be fought not just over the facts, but over the narrative. It would be a war of public perception, a brutal clash between two competing stories, and the winner would be the one who could most effectively capture the hearts and minds of the massive day Fiancé audience. So, what is the endgame? What is the timeline for this potential bombshell? Sources close to the alleged project suggest that the Queen's Gambit is already in the post-production phase. The interviews have been filmed, the evidence has been compiled, and the narrative has been shaped. The next step is the one that will determine whether this becomes a historical footnote or a global phenomenon. The sale. Jesse and Tom are reportedly preparing a pitch package, a sizzle reel containing the most explosive clips from the documentary to be shopped discreetly to the major streaming services. They are betting that the controversy alone will be enough to spark a bidding war. A platform like Netflix, which has had massive success with documentaries like Tiger King, knows that a real-life feud with this much pre-existing drama is a guaranteed hit. We can expect the first public move to be a strategic leak. A short anonymous clip of one of the audio recordings might suddenly appear on a shady corner of the internet just long enough to be captured by news outlets before it's taken down. Or a single damning text message screenshot could be sent to a major reality TV blogger. These would be warning shots designed to prove that the documentary is real and that its contents are as devastating as promised. This would drive public speculation into a frenzy and increase the value of their project exponentially. If a deal is struck, we could see a trailer for the Queen's Gambit drop as early as the first quarter of next year, promoted as the television event that day Fiancé fans have been waiting for and the one that the network never wanted them to see. We are standing on the edge of a new era for the day Fiancé universe. This alleged project by Jesse and Tom is more than just a documentary. It is a potential cataclysm. It threatens to not only redefine the legacy of the show's most enduring star, but also to expose the very nature of the reality we have been consuming for years. It is a story of revenge, of ambition, and of a desperate battle to control the truth. The battle lines are being drawn. On one side, the Silva Empire, a dynasty built on vulnerability and tears, protected by a loyal sister and a powerful network. On the other side, an unlikely alliance of spurned lovers armed with a dossier of alleged secrets and a desire to burn the whole kingdom to the ground. The narrative that has been so carefully controlled for years is about to be challenged in the most public and brutal way imaginable. So I ask you, the viewers, the jury in this court of public opinion, if this documentary, The Queen's Gambit, were to be released with all its alleged evidence and shocking claims, would you watch it? And after hearing everything we've uncovered today, after considering the social media breadcrumbs, the secret Amsterdam meeting, the potential bombshells in the texts and audio recordings, and the complex motives at play, who would you be more likely to believe? The exes united in their quest for what they call the truth, or Darcey, the Queen of the Day universe, who has captured the hearts of millions with her story of relentless and often heartbreaking love? The final verdict rests with